Hey guys, it's Shara from Woodshop Diaries and welcome to my laundry room. It's a really good sized laundry room, but the space is so poorly utilized. This room is honestly kind of sad and I'm ready to just finally do something about it. So in this video, I'm going to take you along with me on the journey of before and after and hopefully add some color, some brightness, some storage, and some function to this space. So if you're ready to dive in, let's go. This video was sponsored by my friends at Earth Breeze. Before we tear everything out, let's take a closer look at this room so we can get a better idea of where it started. To be honest, there's not a lot to tear out because there's just not actually a lot in here to begin with. This room has so much potential, but these two particle board wall cabinets and some pieced together shelves were just not cutting it. Other than that, there's not much else in this space besides the washer and dryer. It just felt kind of dark, empty, and, well, thrown together. A redo was well overdue. So this was my plan. Tear everything out, add some cabinets along the right wall where the open shelves used to be, add cabinets and countertop above the washer and dryer, and then, because I wanted all the countertop space that I could get, I planned to add another cabinet next to the dryer and run a third countertop across the back. I absolutely didn't actually need this much cabinet storage, so I figured that I'd leave underneath the countertop in the back open, and I didn't plan to add any additional wall cabinets, at least for right now. With the rough idea in mind, I began taking everything out of the room. Demo is always a bittersweet process. Sweet because it's nice to say good riddance to the things that you didn't like, but bitter because you always end up finding things that you really didn't want to, like some giant holes in the wall that were just covered up by 1x4. Gonna need a hammer.
Easy.
And that everything was glued to the wall. Once everything except the washer and dryer were out of the room, I patched all the holes with some mesh tape and joint compound. Then it was time to brighten the room up with a little white paint. I painted everywhere that will be seen, so I didn't paint behind where the cabinets will go. I just didn't waste the paint. Now that the room was a clean slate, I began building the cabinets. I won't go into detail here on the cabinet building process because I already shared that in a separate video. However, I built 4 cabinets to run along the right side of the room, and I made 2 of these with doors, 1 with drawers, and 1 I left open. The open cabinet will go against the back wall, and the top part of the face frame is made thicker on purpose, and you'll see why shortly. One of the things I added to the cabinets specifically for the laundry room is a drying rack drawer. This is super simple. Basically, this rack is just a shallow drawer without a bottom. So I cut some scrap 3/4 inch plywood for my drawer sides. I edge banded the tops, then laid out my side pieces side by side and marked out where to drill the holes to install the dowels. I started in the middle and made equally spaced marks out from there to give me 7 total. I was installing 3/4 inch dowels for the rack pieces, so I used a 3/4 inch Forstner bit to drill about 1/2 inch deep holes at each mark. Then I assembled the rack using pocket holes, just like I would a drawer box. I placed the dowels in the holes, and I didn't glue them, but you could if you wanted. And after the fourth side was on, I added the drawer slides to the rack and slid it into the cabinet. Now, just an FYI, you probably want to apply like a spray clear coat to the rack before adding the slides. Of course, I didn't do that because I was in a hurry, so now I get to do it after the fact. Once the cabinets were assembled, I carried them inside one by one to install. I used a few shims to help me get them level, then secured them together through the face frames at the front. Once the cabinet boxes were together, I secured them to the wall studs. Now for the countertops in this room, I purchased a few pre-made butcher block tops and trimmed them to fit over my cabinets. These countertops weighed about as much as I did, and they were a pretty tight fit. Getting them in place took a little patience and some frustration. But once the top was in, I moved on to the next part, the back wall. I'll come back and secure the tops all at once later. I wanted to run another countertop across the back of the room, and the space beside the dryer seemed a little awkward. So to support the countertop and to give some additional storage there, I added another open shelf cabinet box just a few inches shorter than my other base cabinets. Then I cut another butcher block countertop to run across the top. Now, this is why I made the face frame on the end cabinet so tall. I clamped a piece of scrap onto it to rest the other end of the cabinet on. And honestly, of all the things I added in this room, this countertop was by far the most difficult.
Are you kidding me? It's like an eighth of an inch too long.
Once I finally got it to fit, I checked for level and then adjusted my block so that it would keep the countertop in place. I'll come back to secure everything and add some additional trim later, but for now I shifted focus over to the washer and dryer, and to our video sponsor, EarthBreeze. While doing the laundry may never be my favorite chore around the house, EarthBreeze has made it simpler, and I'm hoping that updating the space will make it a little more joyful too. If you aren't familiar with EarthBreeze Eco Sheets, they look like a dryer sheet, but it's actually an ultra-concentrated, liquidless laundry detergent. So no more sticky blue detergent all over my new space. Simply take a sheet from the package, rip it down for light loads, or use a whole sheet for heavy loads. Place it where you'd pour your traditional detergent and run your machine as normal. The sheets dissolve in water during the wash cycle, giving you the same clean as traditional detergents, but without the heavy plastic jug and unnecessary chemicals. So it's better for the planet and for our sensitive skin. If you're interested in simplifying your laundry process with these eco sheets, check out earthbreeze.com/Shara to get started with 40% off. Now, on the topic of washing and drying, let's hop back into the project and add the countertop above the machines. This countertop needed to be supported on both ends. I could have also ran a support along the back, but since the connections were already so high on the wall, I didn't want to add anything else above it to raise the countertop any higher than it already was. So I secured a piece of scrap plywood to the wall and then added a 3/4 inch plywood panel on the other side between the dryer and the cabinet in the corner. I secured this panel to the cabinet with screws, and sorry, this is a really cramped room to be filming in, and the lighting is also horrible. So I screwed it in place, even though you can kind of barely see it. Then I cut and placed the countertop over the machines with help from Danny because I'm tired of carrying these heavy countertops by myself. To finish up this side of the room, I built and installed 2 wall cabinets. Now, I've already shared how I built these cabinets in a previous video, so for here, we're just going to hang them on the wall. We secured them to the wall studs, then screwed them together through the face frame and reattached the doors. At this point, I felt like the room was never going to be finished, but pretty much all that was left was the trim. I headed back to the shop to cut some toe kicks for the base cabinets, trim for the top cabinets, and a trim/support piece for the back countertop. All of these pieces needed to be painted before installing. By the way, several of you asked during my wall cabinet video about the trim around the top. For this, I simply cut 1x4s to length, then glued and nailed them together at the corner, then painted and installed them all as one piece. That way it saved me from having to deal with the corner joint while it was in the air. I nailed the toe kick pieces along the front of the base cabinets on the right wall and along the cabinet next to the dryer. I screwed the support piece under the back countertop in place, then attached a 1x3 piece of trim / support underneath the countertop. I just felt like this countertop kind of needed like an apron, more for looks than for support. But I secured this into the cabinet using pocket holes and screws. Then I carefully cut out the baseboards to fit. Once all the trim was nailed in place, I puttied, caulked, and touched up the paint. Then I remembered that I hadn't secured the countertops. I used an oversized drill bit, basically just a bit larger than the screw, to drill holes through the top supports of the base cabinets. Then I drove a screw with a washer through these holes to secure. The oversized hole will allow the top to expand and contract as needed. I did this at the front and the back of 2 of the 4 cabinets. Then I did the same for the back countertop on the cabinet next to the dryer. Now, on the side with the support, I simply toe-nailed the countertop in place. Honestly, I'm not super worried about this countertop moving. It was hard enough to get into place. It'll be pretty hard to get it out. For the countertop above the washer and dryer, I intentionally didn't secure it. We wanted it to be quickly and easily removable to be able to check the connections in the back without having to pull the washer and dryer all the way out. But if you wanted to secure it, a few trim screws through the top would work great, or some corner brackets between the countertop and the supports on each side. Full transparency here, 5 of the 7 cabinets in this room are empty, and I don't have a lot of decor to display. So I didn't need anything else in here, but the right side of the wall felt a little bare. So I hung up some shelf brackets and used the offcut from one of my countertops to add a simple shelf here. For now, this room is feeling pretty much finished to me, at least for the time being. I actually still feel like I need a large piece of art on the back wall, but I'm kind of indecisive as to what I want. I'll probably make something eventually, so who knows, we may end up back here in a future video. For now, I hope you enjoyed taking the journey with me from this before to this after. It's a huge difference and feels a lot like a place I don't mind folding towels in as much. Now that this room is finished, I've got a few more to update, so I hope you stay tuned to see what other projects that I'll be sharing soon. Thanks so much for watching, friends, and for hanging out with me on this one. Until next time, happy building!